Why the 2024 Amelia was so memorable. I didn't think I was going to be making this video, but sometimes I see some things at Amelia Island that do impress me. And so, you know, a lot of the time it's sort of the same thing. You have a bunch of Porsche guys who are really excited to be there because they can be around other Porsche guys. It's just like people who get together on the internet and play video games. They don't really like each other, but they spend a lot of time together. Maybe the Porsche guys like each other a little bit more. The statistics are unclear. But anyway, thus being set aside, like I don't mean to rag on all the Porsche owners. I enjoy it, but I don't mean to do it. There was a particular thing at Amelia Island that actually I think made the event for me, and it was the Patina Collective display of 20 plus pre-merger AMG cars, tuned Mercedes from the 1980s and 90s, and special one-off customized Mercedes that were built in the period. So this means that there were cars from SGS, which was Styling Garage, of course AMG cars, cars from Brabus, Stratum, I think it was a 500 SEC with the AMG quad cam engine. You know, this is really something that blew my mind, seeing all these cars together. Not only that, but seeing the reaction that people gave them. So you put a bunch of cars together, whether they're Mercedes or BMWs or Porsches, and most people walk by them and they go, oh, cool, look at all those cars of the same make. And mostly the people that are into them are the people who also own them. And that's understandable. If you like something, you should own it. But I think that the reaction that I think a lot of these Mercedes, you know, these young timer, these special young timers, we should say coach built young timers got from the general public was something that I didn't really anticipate, because what I saw was an extremely high level of engagement with the spectators and a high level of curiosity about these cars that really surprised me. Now, this is good for two reasons. First of all, I don't think it's just the fact that these are coach-built cars that attracts people to them. I think it's the fact that they see that they're Mercedes from this era that were special, that are surviving. So you could have done this if you had 25 perfect 126 cars that were totally unmodified. You could do this if you had a bunch of 107s, but the thing is that a lot of the cars in the Patina Collective, just like any car collection, you know, the cars are all different, but the majority of the cars in the Patina Collective are really high quality cars. They've been used very little. They've been stored for a long time, so their cosmetics have not been adulterated. Even some of the desert cars, which I would have expected to have more UV damage, were kept out of the elements and presumably used more at night than during the day. But what really I think gets people in is not only that these cars are unique, but there's a very high quality or high level of quality with these cars because they've been well preserved. And so I know that when Daniel and Vico vetted a lot of these cars and bought them from their longtime owners and negotiated deals with them, you know, they were careful to avoid cars that had a sketchy pedigree. You know, they really tried to verify that the cars they were getting were real AMG cars or real SGS cars. And it's really good to see this, because a lot of the time when these cars come up, they get modified even further or adulterated even more. Like somebody would think, oh, maybe I should just stick a turbo on this thing, and then the next thing you know, you have a Russian car. And The one thing that I really like above and beyond all of this is the immense amount of work that it took to get these cars here. So a lot of the time, if one guy brings his car that he bought off of an internet ad and had some restoration work done, to get the car to an event, I mean, that's pretty respectable for one guy, you know. But when you see a small team of people, you know, in this case, Daniel, Vico, Bernard, I think that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, and Anthony, buying cars, tracking down cars, bringing these cars out of long-term storage. A lot of these are cars that don't actually exist, right? Like if you ask people where they are, because there was maybe a magazine photo 30 years ago. Does this car actually exist? No. The car becomes a unicorn because there are people out there in far corners of the world that are wondering if these cars still exist. And what really shocked me was how many of them actually do exist. It's almost like if you believe hard enough, it comes back into existence. But I don't think that that's really true. But what absolutely floored me was the fact that Patina worked very hard to get these cars out of long-term storage, long-term ownership, import them in the United States. Which, if any of you have imported a car before, like, it's very difficult. And when you import a car from a third world country, it's even more difficult because you often have to bribe people or do them favors or whatever, you know, and it becomes a Machiavellian undertaking where you have to think of your strategy, and your strategy has to change every step of the way, because one person could stamp a customs document because they didn't get their pockets lined enough, and in the entire process, after you spent several $100,000 securing the purchase of a vehicle. And so it's an extremely risky endeavor, and that's why a lot of people don't do it, because they don't have the network, they don't have the backing, they don't have the support. You know, it just becomes really a difficult endeavor. And you know, I know that the hard work getting all these cars here really blew my mind, because it's a scale of work that most people don't even understand. Like the scale of getting 25 of these cars that A, don't exist anymore, B, were not in the United States, C, were often in countries where exporting a car is difficult, and then D, getting them to the United States, getting them to clear customs, getting them into one location without getting damaged. I mean, that's a real tough proposition. And I commend them for doing that. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever going to be able to pull it off again. You know, it's almost like drilling for oil at 30,000 feet below the ocean floor. The only people that are going to get to it are the ones that are extremely determined. So that kind of made the show for me. I'm going to do another video where I talk about what I felt the auction climate was like and what I felt the car show climate was like this year. And we'll talk a little bit about the RM versus Broad Arrow rivalry in another video. But if you enjoyed this video and you saw the display and you were there, please drop a note in the comments. I really hope that that if you didn't get to go this year, hopefully there'll be something as great next year. So we'll see you guys in the next video, and you should think about showing your own Mercedes, because all of us should be proud of what we have, you know. Thank you guys.